Folks, what's going on in Georgia, too? Again, I don't expect Shira Frankel of the New York Times to ask these questions because they're legitimate, just like the Pennsylvania questions are legitimate. But here's Matthew Brainerd, who I believe has some affiliation with some members of the Trump team. Disclosure there. But he put out a social media post on Twitter about some very suspicious activity in Georgia, which piqued my interest because in my prior line of work as a federal investigator, I'm intimately familiar with this tactic. He says, quote, update. We've identified in Georgia thousands of early and absentee votes cast by individuals whose registered addresses are in fact post office boxes, UPS and FedEx locations, willfully disguising the box numbers as apartment, unit, etc. With just a partial review of the state, we've discovered 1,000 votes cast by those registered in non-residential, purely commercial addresses, also disguised with apartment. Let me walk you through this. Folks, this is huge. The vote disparity for President Trump to overcome in Georgia right now is 12,000. They did a small, and not a statewide analysis, a small analysis of newly registered voters in Georgia. I'm going to put this Red State article up in a moment. And what they found were some of the new registrations, large boatloads of them, were not registered to homes. They were registered to P.O. boxes, UPS facilities that offer those mail-type services. And if you had P.O. Box 139, they would label it as apartment 139 or unit 139. Folks, why did this jump out at me? Not to keep relitigating my prior life, but when I was doing bank fraud cases as a young Secret Service agent, I got taken by this early. I noticed one day I was getting all these suspicious activity reports via the bank about suspicious transactions going on, and they were all listed to this address. I think it was in Westbury. I'm like, my gosh, I don't even know a building in Westbury that has this many units in it, apartments. It was like unit 139, unit 1,622. I'm like, man, Westbury doesn't even have places that big. So I decided to do what? What any young, full of vinegar and whatever would do, young agent. I went out and checked out the building. Well, what did I find out? There was a shopping mall. Yeah, I'm not going to say which carrier it was, but it was a place like a UPS, FedEx, DHL kind of place where they offered those P.O. box type items. That's what they were doing. And they would come in every day, the people who were engaged in this fraud, and they would pick up their mail at their unit, which was really their P.O. box. So we waited for him in the back room and arrested him. True story. If I was going to do, God forbid I was a criminal, and I was going to engage in massive voter mail-in fraud and voter registrations that were fake, that's how I'd do it. Apartment 622. There are apartments in there because it's only a box like that big. Is someone living in there? That's exactly how I would do it. Maybe we should check those registrations out and make sure they're real, because it's illegal to register to vote using a PO type box, which obviously stands for post office box, but you get it, mailbox or mail drop as well. That's probably a more appropriate term if it's like a UPS or FedEx. That's illegal. You know that, right? Read this Red State piece. Oh, it's worth your time. Be in the show notes today. Yeah, Bongino.com/newsletter if you want to check it out. The Trump campaign has a very real chance to overturn the election result in Georgia by the great shipwreck crew. Love this guy's work. Super smart. From his piece, he cites exactly this, that, Joe, this is super weird, that the mail drop locations seemingly ran out of boxes before the election. Gee, why would that happen? Maybe because people were buying them up? Quote, there is also anecdotal information, not yet verified, that many such businesses in the metro Atlantic area exhausted their inventory of available boxes in September and October. Wow, right before the election. Holy Moses, that's strange. To the extent they are able, what it seems the campaign is doing is cross-referencing the street addresses of these commercial mail drop businesses against voter registration information. Wouldn't that be really crazy if tens of thousands of fake voter registrations and mail drops, not legitimate residential addresses, were thrown out in a state where President Trump allegedly lost by 12,000 votes? That would be really weird, wouldn't it? Maybe the New York Times is interested in that? No, of course not. Those are actual facts, right? Because you can cross-reference and check the voter registration and see it's a mail drop. Shira, maybe you should check that out. Journalism, Ming.
You just heard Dan Bongino.